Let's see what we can make of this whole thing. Let me see. All right. Well, I would say that I am too foggy to do any real rewriting. Well, it may just be an excuse. But yeah, I took a morning walk there and my mind almost completely blank. It's actually kind of nice and so forth. I got to tell you, like, as somebody who gets ill fairly frequently, just because of my degenerate lifestyle, uh, it's actually kind of enjoyable. The parts before you get like the banging headache, but where inflammation in your brain is just either making your mind like a blank slate or like a pleasant dreamy opium like experience. This is good. Um, Nice change of pace from just being an asshole all the time. All right. But yes, I'm sick as hell. Still have to work. Still have to do the edit. So what's changed? You know what I'm saying? All right. So 218 rewrite, find a split. I like where we went with it. At least I think 218 was pretty good, or 217. Yeah, the 21 pages is too much. So there's just like all these little chapters that I need to do functional work within the story. And I have to tell you more and more, I'm thinking that there's a role in this story for like something cute and fun. Essentially like this serves the role of like gully dwarves in the Dragonlance saga. Um, it doesn't need to be comedic, but it needs to be something like fast paced and fun to fill in all these spaces between these big ass chapters. Like I'm going to chop some of them up and so forth, but I can see potentially structurally the need for like another character or another phenomenon that fits into the Rapasaurus. But the in terms of like actual work, what I'm describing there is like fuck. I want to say like a month of work to just weave in that thread and do the whole deal. So um, especially since like I'm proposing it apropos of nothing. I have no ready concept for what that would look like or what would happen there or what have you. So yeah, it's not an easy ask, but it is something that I'm considering. You know, I could do something like that. It wouldn't be impossible to make that happen. Um, Potentially an area to let one of these minor characters that we've created here shine. But this is not really like a Russian novel. For a book with 900 pages or whatever, we really do not have, like we have a tenth of the number of characters that we would have in like a standard epic fantasy like Maslin or whatever there. So my ears are perked for a potential utility type character that I could use to get through here. All right, so this is Yellow Hat 338 to. Da, 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 da. Oh, I like Stirs' Daydream. Okay, so 338 to 347. So it looks like about 9 pages. Um, so here it may be a little bit premature, right? So this is where Stirs reveals that this whole time he's been cooking up a plan to what do you call it? 9 pages. And I think unfortunately this whole chapter may just be conversation. All right, and so it's kind of interesting. Like this chapter is a lot about building up stirs. Let me see. Okay, so here immediately I can see, I think 2 chapters ago. All right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Uh, maybe. All right. So we described this character as getting high, like a chapter or two ago, or let's see. Okay. Crevasse of Workstone. All right, so Warfight is actually something I came up with in the other book that I'm working on now. Let's see. Oh, I'm only going to make it like an hour or two on this edit here. I doubt I got 60 minutes in me. I'm really quite ill. But what else are you going to do? Like lay in bed and just do nothing and feel like a POS? If I can get a little work done, I'm going to try to do it. Let's see. Um, okay, so let me see here. Balderdashery. Eventually, I figured out where you meant. Yeah, yeah. I told you I was gonna work at some point there. Blob to Blobby. The character's name is Slanky. I think Slanky is more cutesy and ridiculous than Blob. Yeah, Blobby Brown. All right, what do we got here? All right, so unfortunately, there's no fucking um. Leafron Dukedom. Let me see. All right. Mm. All right. Pulls him back from the brink. All right, so that's kind of key. Let's do keynotes up at the top. And then let's do character notes. Why am I fucking center indented here? I don't need that. What do we got there? Oh, Zochil K. Wow, holy crow. Yeah, welcome to the stream. I don't know if you're on YouTube or what. Doesn't show where you're at, but thank you. Yeah, we are editing a giant fantasy novel, and I'm working on sort of like an instruction set for the rewrite. The fourth or fifth rewrite here. Let me see. Inshallah. Mm-hmm. I have lurked before. Okay, well, yeah. This is the only game in town if you want to see a lecherous old man at 4 in the morning. So, welcome back. So, also, sorry. Ugh, fucking tuberculosis over here. Rebel. Okay, so that's basically every character should have a clear goal or ambition driving them forward. And like this chapter that we're working on, 218, is like they're it's like the Fleetwood Mac dream starts playing, and it's supposed to it's where we give what's driving two of our characters, the low lives. We get what's driving them on a little bit. All right, so we do need to have, if they're all going to talk about where they're going and what they want, she needs to get in there too. So you can, I got to tell you, like, old is remembering bell bottoms, tie dye, roller skates, and ELO. Oh, ELO, Electric Light Orchestra. You know, I used to DJ for roller derby games. Actually, like a pretty decent. I was a pretty decent roller skater at one point, but I remember all of that shit. Although I am not old enough for bell bottom. Oh, what's up, DNSK? How did you find out that this was going on? Um, you're always invited, of course. Yeah, like bell bottoms made a slight comeback in the '90s, right? Mostly for women with fat asses. Which I like. Hold on, I gotta focus on something other than that for a little bit. But we also had like those preposterously big raver pants and like wallet chains and all kinds of retarded shit. Honestly. uh, but I remember. I don't really get nostalgic for any of that. I did like the giant pockets in those pants. They were for shoplifting and hiding drugs, but oh yeah, I remember parachute pants. Zebra print was never big where I was at. Um, what did people wear? They wore fucking airwalks that was the cool shoe. And skateboarding was like the meme, which I never got good at. I still can't fucking ollie. Although I skateboarded a ton. I just swapped over to like longboards, and then it was just like skating to work and going all over the neighborhood. Longboarding is super fun. Uh, Set aside Stir's grand scheme and gathered all their things and ventured through the rings. Okay. Yeah, so this chapter needs some work. Um, yeah, in fact, you could just vanish this chapter from the book and it does no work almost. Uh, and if we look at what's happening here, Yeah, there's no action happening here. This is just like a very long and desolate stretch. So I can see the need for some kind of threat. Yeah, we need. Okay. All right. So that's good because we have action in the. Um, here's the thing. Um, as much as this is like it's a fantasy epic, and it's about like it's good to have the characters like dreams and so forth. We just need to have some underlying set of threat and urgency driving them forward. I would say, um, yeah. Okay, so let's actually color code the chapters that are fucking slow. All right, so no, color coding is a stupid way to do this. What I need is like a another column. Uh, what are you doing? Oh, there we go. All right, so here, let me see. hmm This is good. Psychonica is good. The pace here, Pursuit by Snare, this is good. Very, very good. All right, so slow. That's good. A lot's happening there. Slow. Is the labyrinth itself alive in some way? Um, no, because it's cliche at this point. There are sections within that we call like a living labyrinth, but it's just a machine essentially. No, we're not getting into the dungeon is sentient because it's been done to death, unfortunately. It's a cool idea, but it's that's another one of it's helpful to be aware of like peripheral subgenres like lit RPG, because they exist to exploit like a fundamental desire in people, right? Like people who dress up in fursuits and bugger each other. That's like some fundamental desire in people to let go of the pain of being a man and become like a degenerate beast. Um, let me see, but yeah, nothing. It's not like a sentient being at this point. Um, I don't see a need to get into it there. But so also in lit RPG, for some reason, it's important to have the dungeons be sentient. So there are a lot of like dungeon cores or whatever is something that I've seen in a lot of their stuff, and I think that has to do. I think a lot of lit RPG, um, a lot of these people's like dreams were informed by the video games that they played more than things that they watched or more than things that they read. And of course, a video game is alive in the sense that there's a person programming the dungeon that they're going through. There's like a creator. So, in a way, like all the AI enemies and so forth, they're sentient by proxy in that somebody has designed the entire thing and is actively trying to keep the person engaged. So, it may be that that's just a response to like the recognition hey, somebody is making this game that I'm wasting thousands of hours of my life into and like an identification with them, but it might just be that they just think it's cool. All right, so 219. This is the initial chapter where he meets Hadriate, and it's also a low action chapter. Okay. Oh, this is cool though. So we do need to foreshadow there. So this is Revel, and this is. I hope I can pull this thread off. It's going to be a difficult one. In fact, the whole Revel character 348 through is a stretch. Okay, and this is more. Oh, it's long. Why? 348 to 357. 9 pages. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, we definitely need some action breaking this up. Because it's just, you don't want to get to any, you don't want to get to like any 20 pages of the book and nothing fucking happens, right? Or characters are just milling around and so forth. Oh, all right. And I think we have some in this chapter. Okay, cool. Yeah, good luck with the coffee. I'm also refilling myself with coffee as we speak here. All right, so action wise, we need to go back. Any classic walls closing in or crushing elements in this dungeon yet? I don't think so. So, like a critical distinction um, with this dungeon is that there aren't really there are a few traps per se. Um, why even say per se? Per se never means anything. Um, there are a few traps and areas meant to beguile the unwary, but largely it's not a like blocks of stone dropping or pits falling out from under you type trap dungeon. The conception of this place is that it is a machine built by Vadabo, and while it's extremely dangerous, the dangers are just kind of incidental. Like it's really like the dangers that you would see of somebody walking around in a factory or whatever there. Crawl, where a lot of characters are pierced by traps or slowly crushed to death. Yeah, there was some of that in the book I just read below or whatever. So um, I don't like traps because they lack agency, right? It's like unless like the whole premise of the book is that Vidabo is tricky and they have to overcome his traps and get through and blah blah blah. It's not very trap heavy. This Rapasaurus here, and I remember when I was doing like the initial research for it, I like went through and like read up on all the different like traps and like just books and books of this. It's not D&D centric. It's a secondary world. We don't use a lot of the D&D archetypes. There aren't subhumanoids. There are no like dragons, elves, etc. It's almost completely divergent from what I would call like Tolkienian fantasy. Um, and so like anything falls into like that set of D&D type stuff. If you have like some what are the primary points of agreement with like Tolkienian fantasy? It would be that there are some human races, which would be like elves and dwarves and stuff like that. That's probably the biggest indicator. There are fantastical beasts, right? And they're generally ones from legend. Things like dragons, griffins, chimeras, things that we like universally appear on. There's usually a horde type threat, and like in Lord of the Rings, it's like the orcs and so forth. And those are the conceits. And usually, Dungeons and Dragons type fantasy has like very prevalent magic items. Like everybody has like a suit of like a shiny sword and blah 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 blah. High elves passing into the west type shit going on. More humanistic, brutal age on the rise. Yeah, that's kind of unavoidable in fantasy. Um, just but yeah, like um yeah. So I don't have a lot of that, and I didn't have a lot of that in fucking my other fantasy novel, which is Xanon Inc. I did have some classes in it essentially. Like one character was definitely like a ranger. I had like magicians and so forth. So that's the other part too. You'll have like class based stuff where somebody is clearly identifiable by the set of skills and stuff that they bring to the table. And a major theme and what I would see is like Dungeons and Dragons type thing is that each person using their individual skills to be a part of blah 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 blah. So I didn't see the Dungeons and Dragons movie, by the way. I don't know if it was any good or not. It just seemed too marvelized for me to take a gander at it. So in any case, what I'm writing here is not really meant to be in that tradition. Like I eschew a lot of their shit. Like there's no undeadness, for instance. Um, the the primary monsters in this thing are just devils, I would say. Like a twist on uh like a sort of alternate creation of beings that are like much more tied in to abstract structures than people. So yeah, it's essentially they're just voyaging into the mountain of the gods and trying to come out. So it's more of an underworld narrative than a dungeon narrative, I guess, if you really get into it. But I say it's a dungeon crawl because we do have some of those, like people are finding items, they're overcoming difficulties and so forth. But it's got like a little different twist because I would be bored to just write about elves and shit. I would. So it's somebody else's idea. And so a big thing with genre is like how much of the understood conceits you're going to take in with you. Let me make sure that I don't know if conceit means what I think it means. I'm also I have a high fever, so I can just anytime I sound stupid. Okay. Conceit is something conceived in the mind. Okay, so that's what I was going with. The faculty of conceiving ideas. Okay, yeah, it's probably not the right usage of whatever there. Um, like at one point it was right, but it's no longer right. All right, so let's. Uh, yeah, there we go. Have I taken in any conceits about demons? Yes. The conceit, and so one thing that I am just straight lifting is the Ursula K. Gwynn, her conceit from Earthsea, and like a lot of her idea is that magic is essentially speaking the language of the underpinning of the world, and that language is essentially like language could be so true that it would alter reality itself, which to me is like a really cool concept. So we're taking that, we're taking the idea that a devil can be controlled by its true name. So that's a conceit. Um, cranial rectosis syndrome. All right. I guess rubric is closer to what I want with the word. Generally, like the word that I want is like a generally accepted practice that is so accepted that you don't really think about it. I use a different word for that. Moray is closer. Like let's just say um what's the trope. Let's just use trope for right now. So yeah, I am like whole cloth accepting the trope that like demons and these characters are not demons per uh, they're not demons. Um, they're a little bit different, but initially they were written as just demons, and that was just boring, right? It didn't diverge far enough. If you want to read a really cool book about demons, which is written by like an interesting guy. I think his name is Wayne Barlow. I read this one not too long ago, and he was inspired by Paradise Lost and did a ton of research on the different historical books of demonology and blah blah blah. And so he's written in the Christian tradition of Satan and the Grand Rebellion and Lucifer and blah blah blah. So he writes a story called God's Demon. Let's see. Lord. But oh yeah, even Coyote isn't really a demon, and well, I guess it depends on whose myth you're talking about there. But I would see Coyote as more of like a trickster type. Although he's done some dirt. All right, so 219. Okay. So what does she initially say to him? Poor mouse and blah, 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 blah. All right, this is where he learns that he is going to change. Hunger is a wound. Oh, he learns how to draw from whatever. Okay. So that passage is a little bit hokey, to tell you the truth. So fish. All right, so this is just. How long do I do this for? This was written out of like a clear understanding that some action needed to be there, and this is going to move back. I can tell you already. So 358, but I think it's long. Let me see. Oh, this is cool. I like this chapter. So this is where he. All right, so it's a 9-page chapter where 9 fish. Let me see. It shows he's afraid of pursuit by Sakanika, and then mm. All right, so a bunch of stuff happens in that chapter, and it's a rewrite chapter too. So, all right, so this is the chapter where Fish starts to remember Vadabo. Um, it's a very Elder Signy, or what was it? What was that fucking game? Elden Ring type chapter. Okay. Oh, you can tell. I can tell everything that I was reading when I was doing this here. Yeah, this chapter was written when I was like looking through some of the art of Wayne Barlow, being like, yeah, like Rapazor should have more stuff like that because his art is fantastic. And then you have another creepy chapter, so we're blending more towards horrifying type thing. I like how all that goes. All right, so this is good, and Let's see, where can we move this? Okay, cool. We can move 220. Let's see. All right, so that's good. Yeah. I think that would work. So if we move that to 219, then we can have our thing, because I think the real danger of 219 is that it's slow and it's followed by another slow chapter after. And when I'm saying slow, I'm just talking about the amount of action versus exposition. Um, so here, even though the fish chapter is an exposition chapter, it's one of the new ones where it's written to contain like a balanced amount of exposition and action. Um, and there are like weird things. There's this, like horror and so forth. Um, when I think about it, what I'm like one of the things I'm thinking about is like where you're actually like creating something that's new and having like a neat description of a place or a concept or something like that that the reader might not have come to before. Yeah, just the chapters need to have like a balance of what's new and like fantastical data that you're getting. What are you learning about the characters and the plot and so forth, and what's happening that's driving the plot forward? And so it's like kind of like a triangle of those things, and like something that fits right into the center of it is a chapter that somebody will just read through and be like, oh, I want to find out more. So that's our goal with each of these chapters, to have like an unspoken mystery drawing the people forward, and to contain those three elements in a balance that's not too skewed one way or the other. So 220 is a chapter that could do some work for me there, because it's cool. It contains all those three elements. Like you find out a little bit more about Fish. He's traversing the Rapasaurus and seeing new and fantastical things, and he has an encounter where he has to make a decision, which he does. Um, so that's another thing that may be critical. And when we look at the weak chapters, we don't see a decision taking place. Like Revel doesn't make a decision in 219. In 218, they don't make a decision. They're just talking about dreams last for so long, even after you're gone. They're just chilling by a campfire, essentially. And you have to have some scenes that are like campfire scenes where people are recounting about what's going on. But I would say that the whole thread of the Bard's Party lacks urgency. And it lacks urgency starting here. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. And I think the lack of a sense of urgency um, through all of this has been one of the major critiques that I and others have had of the Rapasaurus in general. Okay, so we need an extra edit pass. So 221. Oh, away. Okay, it was hard to make 900 pages urgent with relative urgency. Urgent in the sense of like a fantasy thing. That's why so many like epic fantasies have like a dark lord who's trying to take over the world. Like if you want to convince somebody, hey, you should read all 900 pages of this, it had like the stakes have to be like relatively high, right? Um, let me see. Oh, this is very fucking slow. Oh, this is the worst offender so far. All right, so 368. I bet this is going to be like 20 pages. Yes. Fucking slow. Uh, what have I done to the earth? All right, so it's a bit like a 16-page chapter. Oof. All right. Yeah, maybe the Bard's Party is the whole problem. 221. I don't even know whose POV this is. I know it's 16 pages. Ugh. All right. Well, now I see what the problem is. Um, and like there is some action. They get attacked by something in this, but it's prefaced by so much bullshit. Yeah, I think here we're gonna have to cut. Yeah, like a lot of things are working against this section. Like it's taught a lot. It comes a lot in the POV of Hat. All right, so let's look at what work this is actually doing, right? Because there's just like a lot of bickering back and forth between these people, and they're like wondering, they're like going through the Rapasaurus, and they have the least information of any of the characters here. Really, they are just babes in the wood about all this. They don't have anybody like telling them what the fuck is going on. They're just guessing the entire time, and they have been guessing for the entire book. And it's not designed to be that way. So all right, so that happens. So word choices inside the dungeon need to convey more tension and dire need. No, this is not about word choice. We're just talking about the structure here. Um, so if the structure isn't exciting, it doesn't matter what our word choice is, right? So we have to build like strong bones, and then like the word choice um, is excessive and flowery in Rapasaurus. So it's another thing that's going about against it because the words are also like slowing down the story, um, and also like so just a small amount of description is necessary to get people to read the story, but excessive description will have people putting down a book so fast. So yeah, this rewrite right here, what we're doing, we're looking at the bones of the structure. We're looking at like how far do the characters move, how clear is it what they're moving towards, how much is the reader willing to put up with my bullshit, right? And I can buy with the first part of the book because it's been rewritten so many times and it's like a very clear narrative. With the first part of the book, I can buy myself a lot of pages of just bullshit, right? Because I've done solid work there and I think my setup is good. But we definitely start to run out of steam and we run out of credit with the reader. We have like these long ass chapters where they're just like wondering, I wonder what the Rapasaurus is. Gosh, do you think that like a demon could have made that? Oh my god, like gay. Um, so here I'm just like looking at how much I'm taxing my reader and how much I'm giving them something in exchange for it. Because injecting action is like gasoline into the story. Um, okay, yeah. So we're not even focused on like the language. We are focused on like some ideas for things that could change, characters that we could introduce, like rubrics that are tired, things that we could change up. But really, this is about like looking at the bones and like saying that this story is deformed right now. This story is like like the story has spinal bifida right now, and we need to rip out those bones and put in something. In some places like the bone is too heavy, so we've got to shave some of it off. in some places the bone is like going in completely wrong direction, right? We got to build a healthy skeleton right here. That's why we're drinking milk. Oh. And so this is what happens when you don't have like a plot when you're writing out the story. Um, it just it slows to a crawl. This table is a new device that I'm using to try and rein in my like very strong tendency to overwrite everything. Um, so yes, the Bishop's Daughter video is listed as private because it sucks. It's not good. It didn't go through a round of edits. Um, I should just take it off of the site to tell you the truth. It was something I was working on for a little bit, but I'm not jazzed about it. But it is like one of the few stories that people have talked about and been interested in. So if we want to have the video up, what I should probably do is actually do an edit of that story and then re-record it. So I could maybe do that. But yeah, I was not happy with the quality of the recording or the quality of the story or what have you. It was just like a one-off that I did, and that was like 5 or 6 years ago. So I could re-edit it and put it back up. Um, you are the second person who has mentioned that recently, and I guess it's just because it's in error and you can't get to it. Um, I don't know. I'll think about it. This is definitely not the story that I want to put my attention into right now. There, yeah, it was just like a one-off. I was trying to do a series of stories where I would just take 3 tarot cards and try to, like in a week or two, put together a functioning short story out of it, just based on what those cards would say. And this one was written as more of like a YA type thing, but I don't think it was great, to tell you the truth. All right, so let's go. Oh no, this is. Oh fuck. Oh, so okay, so that's what we were trying to do here. So I was trying to do something in the rewrite. There's a lot of bloviating about the blog. Survival mode looks interesting as sci-fi is my genre of choice. Yeah, if you want sci-fi, the 2 books that I've written that will like everybody seems to like survival mode. It's like a very fast 80-page read that you can just plow through in an hour. Um, most people seem to really like that one. And then I have this book, Zeros, which we edited here live on twitch.tv. This one is honestly pretty dope. I like it better than survival mode, but it's a little bit more demanding on the reader because we did a conlang in it. It's like a there's a constructed language in the book of a kind of I call it Ultima Mandarin, but it's like Chinese about 500 years in the future. Um, you write science fiction fan fiction yourself as a hobby. Okay, cool. Like, yeah, what do you fanfic onto? You're like, I'm trying to think of what sci-fi universe would be the least egregious to fanfic in. I guess Warhammer would be if I had to fanfic in a universe, I would do Warhammer because there's so much room to maneuver within the universe that they've created, and you can just cut out all the stupid elements if you really feel like it. Yeah, it's just what's not to like giant space marines. Okay, this is a rewrite. Trace. Ugh, so easy to get out of these cells. Dune would have a lot of fanfic permutations, just begging to be told. I don't know. I would really be loath to try and write in Frank Herbert's universe. His vision was like so singular. The nice thing about Star Wars and fucking Warhammer 40K is that they're collaborative by default. Like those universes were made out of a bunch of people. Uh, Gurney and Lady Jessica of Blue Knights. I don't know if Gurney ever fucked Lady Jessica. That's not canon, to tell you the truth. Like the Hui Nori Sandworm Tentacleopolis, this is there. All right, rewrite so slow. Current character has taught me a lot about writing from 180 position from the prior. Um, they get together later on during the Children of Dune era. Oh, I forgot about that. I almost think like Children of Dune and Dune Messiah are not canon. The only books I really like are 1 and 4. Yeah, I forgot that they fucking got it on there. But that's after. Is Paul dead at that point? Or is he just blind and wandering the desert? I think you're allowed to cheat on your husband if he's fucking blind and wandering around in the desert for centuries. So it gets weird when the God King of Dune takes control for centuries. To me, that's the best book in Dune. Four is like the reason for the whole thing. The concept of like this sad, inhuman being trying to guide humanity on the golden path and just sidestepping like all these atrocities and so forth. That's the most interesting part of like the tyranny of prescience. Uh, I always say this, but I can't find confirmation. But I've heard from one source that I potentially trust that God Emperor was ghostwritten with the assistance of somebody, and that subsequent books were also ghostwritten. I know that what does he saw, which awaits humanity after his reign? Well, I mean, some of it takes place in like the weird fucking sex witches in book 5, and then the bullshit in Chapter House. 5 and 6 are not good books. Let's see. Oh, that's right. I forgot that she was a fucking widow right there. Well, see, there's another thread that your fan fiction can take: the incest of Paul and Jessica. I really am fucking having like a severe fever right now. I can't even keep anything straight. But still, got to press on. Let's see. So we try to show that there are tracks here. I do like that part there. And we talk honestly, like this conversation is doing some good stuff. All right, so let's see how many pages it takes me to get into the. Oh yeah, this is. Oh yeah, this is just All right, so here we're just trying. All right, okay, so yeah, this is just where I was trying to like inject some sense of wonder and so forth, and we've overtaxed the. It was not like I didn't coin the tyranny of prescience. It's the central concept of Dune. Yeah, and we bandy it about all the time on fucking IRC. Um, for a long time, it was like a running joke. I can't believe I forgot that Jessica was his mother. I think I got confused with all the Litos and Pauls and uh, you know. Let me see there. Yeah, I'm still gonna go see like the second Dune. I know a lot of people were shitting on um, the last Dune, but I honestly thought it was pretty decent. I give it like a. It was better than the David Lynch version. I'll say that much. Um, only because we didn't have to see Sting's fucking jock at any point. And the like weird floating Baron and so forth. The way that they handled the Baron poison scene with his suspensors and so forth, that was so much cooler, right? You give it a 7 out of 10. I'd be like 85. with the new one, and then the Lynch one. I'd say actually let me put the new one closer to like 87, and then the Lynch one at 85. Right, they were very close in terms of like how close they were to the vision and so forth. Um, so the biggest parts of the casting was like the hugest problem, right? Uh, Chani was very poorly cast, right? Makes no sense whatsoever. The Jason Momoa, no, who the fucking big dude, right? He's all right. Um, the character that played Paul was all right. Better, I think, than the one in the Lynch version. Do I stream under a different name before? No, I always use this one for writing stuff. Yes, hello. Uh, the Thopters have dragonfly rings versus the feathers in the book. Yeah, I mean that was just Herbert doing what he was doing. Um, the Jessica casting was superb. She was so good. She carried the movie. And honestly, the person that they have cast as Paul, I don't remember who it is, but literally, if you look at the Jessica in the Lynch Dune and the Jessica in this Dune, incomparable, right? So much better. Um, the I can't really remember who was cast as Leto, but I remember Leto being like a little bit better there. My biggest beefs in the movie is the Chani character is like the worst written character in Dune, right? So it's difficult to play a good Chani, especially because she doesn't say a lot of shit there. Um, then the and even in the Lynch Dune, like it's the weakest character in the whole deal, and it really um, it's weird too because like a lot of what fucked Herbert up later in his life was the sickness of his wife. It really had like a huge impact on his thing. So you get the idea that Herbert kind of like dotes on women and raises them onto a pedestal, kind of, and like so the Jessica character is obviously just him writing about his mother, and then the Chani character where he has like these he writes her in like almost kind of like an angelic sense, but she's also tough and she doesn't really the character has no flaws that I can see and no significant flaws. And it just shows that he is kind of maybe mythologizing the women that he is in relationships with, which is it's weird to, I guess, armchair psychoanalyze a guy from whatever. But I'm interested in Herbert. You know, he to my mind is like one of the greatest science fiction writers ever and worthy of consideration. And I'm interested in how the way he saw the world played into his characters and so forth. So, but you know, we're only fucking guessing. I didn't know the guy. I know people who knew the guy. I could just ask them if I was willing to talk to those people. So in any case, the second Dune movie, and I don't want to get into like a race thing with the casting of Dr. Kynes or whatever, but it was such a downgrade from, and it's a secondary character too, but there was just no reason for that casting, and it really had like that diversity hire thing, and her acting was atrocious, right? So if you want to blacken a character, great, but because you are ultimately taking an expectation from the viewer and twisting it, the person you emblaculate the movie with has to be good. They have to be better than somebody else because they're going against the grain there. Yeah. Oh my God. So if you have like a really good actor, you can do the race swap, right? And people are like, damn, I never thought about it that way. Like they almost get away with in Macbeth. They almost get away with making Macbeth black because they what's that guy's fucking name? He was the worst part of the movie. The most recent Macbeth. Oh, I can't remember the name of the actor. He's a very famous actor. Not Sidney Poitier, but the later day Sidney Poitier. What's his fucking name? I saw that in the promos and turned it off because it felt like an attempt to push an arrow. It's just them trying to appeal to a larger audience and to like try and drag some woke people in to see it. But Dune is not about being fucking woke. That's not what that book is about. the book is about has a lot to do with uh, I guess things that you would call extremely based, if we want to get into 4chan parlance. Yeah, that is not a woke book. It's about making terrible decisions at the expense of other people. It's about like the antithesis of woke. The woke ideology is like this idea that everybody can kind of get along and all fit into there. Um, but the Dune ideology is more about a central authority has to make terrible decisions at immense costs to common people to keep everybody together. So they're really it's it's Dune is much more about a brutal aristocracy than some kind of socialist parasite. Where so I like the Freudian slip between parasite and paradise, socialist paradise, where everybody just gets along together, like crammed into one homogenized mush. Um, but it does have interesting. Well, anyhow, where was I trying to get to? I'm trying to remember the name of this fucking character. Why can't I remember anything that he was in at the moment? I'm very sick. I can't believe I can't remember his name. Uh, so most help me figure out the name of this fucking actor. The one who was Macbeth in the recent Cohen Macbeth. Like, super famous, and I can't remember his name at all. He played Macbeth in the most recent Apple Macbeth, and he was um, like an extremely talented actor. Uh, fuck, what is his name? Then he did a bunch of movies where he was like a CIA agent taking revenge on people. Like later in his career, he became Liam Nielsen. Yeah, Denzel Washington. That's who I couldn't remember. So he, they do like a Black Macbeth with Denzel Washington as a character, and it's in Shakespearean English, and it works because Denzel Washington is very talented and like he's a good actor, and he can carry off the acting in Macbeth, even though he is the weakest actor in the movie, right? By far, not even close. Everybody else is stronger than him, and they make both Macbeth and Macduff black, which is a thing that you can do, and they get away with it because the movie is so good and the performances are so good, and so like like as an audience member, I'm willing to accept like this Scottish black dude, right? I'll just take it, right? Like for whatever reason, both of these princes are Moors from Lord knows where, just because their performances are good and the movie was the Macbeth. That Macbeth is like a 99 for me. It was so good. I'd almost like just give it a straight 100. It's like within honestly, like Denzel was probably the thing that kept it from just being 100 for me because his performance could have been better, but it was still good, right? If I'm just gauging him on how he did it, his performance is like a 90 out of 100, and everybody else is just batting 1,000. Particularly the weird sisters played by that one woman. Oh my god, so good. And I'm not like the hugest Shakespeare buff or whatever. Um, sure, I only gave Midsummer like a 65. Oh, it's just they lost me in the second half. It had a good setup, honestly. It could have been so good, but they went so overboard. It just became a farce. All right, so but yeah. If you have not seen that Macbeth and you get a chance to see it in a movie theater, oh my god, go. Um, really, that was the best movie that I saw that year. Maybe the best movie I saw in like 4 or 5 years. But it just specifically appeals to me for a lot of reasons. Like one is true to the original source material, which is something that I like a lot, especially if you're going to do Shakespeare. Um, the performances are superb. The cinematography is just as good as like Fargo or Oh Brother Where Art Thou or any of the other movies that they've done. It really has an inspired cinematography to it. And I don't remember the music in it, but the musical choices must have been decent also. It just they made so many good and interesting decisions in that movie. To me, it's the greatest rendition of Macbeth on the screen ever, and probably better than any play I've ever seen. Oh yeah, yeah. So, how did you not hear me raving about it for like a week? I told everybody to go see it, and I'm not usually like, oh my god, you got to check this out. But all right, so um, all right, so this just needs to be trimmed. All right, all right. So it gets into the. This is where they eat sand lobster or sand lice. Yeah. Well, you might not have been in the channel at that time. I don't know when it came out. You were like fairly recent edition. The blob had almost doubled in size. I wonder how big Slinky can get. Yeah, they're too fucking chummy for this whole thing. All right, so what happens here? All right. Boom. Interesting spreadsheet usage. Yeah, it's not a spreadsheet. Well, I guess it is a spreadsheet, but it's just a table within pages. I do all my writing in pages here. So here's another book that I'm working on. Open. Hold on, let me just make sure that I don't have anything. Fucking open recent. Open. Give me 1 second. I'm still here. Let me just look and see if I have any personal shit in here. Okay, so file open. Yeah, I just don't want like Dick Blaskowitz resume to like leap to the front of the thing, and then I got to deal with people like, oh, I didn't realize that you work for a dildo factory and blah 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 blah. Okay, so here, this is the way that I was doing it before, right? King Geordie the Little. Okay, so you can see. So this is Vasinane. It's a story that I'm working on, um, which is written. It's about a village full of magicians who are constantly fighting with each other and exploiting the little people. And it's just meant to be what would a city be like if it was all magicians and they were all just horrible people and drunks and so forth. And it's meant to be kind of a similar in the way that Lemon maybe was about normal people with power. This is just about what would happen if you had a bunch of wizards trying to live together in like a little village, and just what a shit show they would make of it, and how normal people would have to deal with these asshole wizards like dueling in the streets and fucking transmogrifying town people into whatever. And it's meant to be written as like mostly a comedy. Um, with very elaborate prose. So here is what I was doing for a little bit, where I've done like, this is a synopsis for Vasinane. So I have like the chapter title, the characters, blah 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 blah, and then I'm writing it up as like a screenplay. I have like the key items mentioned. Um, let's see, and then I write it in like this screenplay style. So I was trying to do this with Vasinane for a little bit, and so I just started writing up the synopsis as I was doing it, because I knew when I tried to sell the book, I would need to provide a synopsis And this one is written in kind of like a more episodic, TV friendly type thing. So it's not inconceivable that at some point I would turn this into like a couple episode miniseries or something like that and try to sell that. Because it is kind of funny. But let me see, where am I at in Vaseline? Who asked you milk? All right, so it's 140 pages or so long. This is the book that I work on when I'm tired of working on Rapasaurus, by the way. So you can see I was doing this synopsis thing right here just to keep track of where the writing is at and so forth. And so you can see that it's like this, but honestly, like I would have to sit down and like really read it. It doesn't tell you how long each of the things are. I don't have it doesn't tell me how to fix the story as I'm writing it, right? Or talk about the concerns that I have with it and so forth. So we don't need to have this. And there's Vaseline in there. This is like much easier for me to reference what's happening, and just much easier for me to take a look at like how many pages is each one of these taking, like what's its placement in the story, is it all flowing and so forth. So I like this a lot better, and it's a different. So I am working on a giant fantasy book called Rapasaurus. It is, if you want to gander here, we're writing up a chart to help us rewrite this thing. So this is 900 some odd pages long, and we're just creating a chart for the rewrite. And you can see where I talk about like what's the pace of this chapter, how long is this chapter, what's the number, whose point of view is the chapter from, what's my goal with it, and what's the current status of it. So I'm very sick at the moment, so I can't actually do the rewriting, which is just an excuse. You should always be rewriting. But so I'm trying to, with what limited mental bandwidth I have, yeah, I mean, well, it's not, the work is not done until the book is published. Like right now, everything I'm doing is just spinning wheels. So until there is like a physical book that you can hold in your hand is not nice work. It's just the start of like the work that has to be done. But yeah, it's a big one. It's too big, I would say. Let's see. So this chapter needs a complete rewrite. 221 is a problem. It's trying to do too many things. It's too slow. It's going in too many directions. And also, the use of the yellow hat POV is incorrect. Okay, so Yellow Hat is a indie publishing. I'll try to sell this one to, I guess I mean, it's really only like Daw and Bane and maybe Tor that would even buy this kind of thing anymore. And like I'm not I'm not gonna make a sell to Tor anytime soon. I think. Yeah, they're buying different shit now. Bane is still buying this kind of thing, but fantasy is not really their jam as much. They've done some fantasy, but so maybe Daw could pick it up, or like Rock, or one of like the little imprints. Um, we'll have to see. Most likely, I will just wind up publishing it myself, and serializing it or something like that. But I have a very poor record of getting things published, because I'm too into me. Currently writing fantasy as well. Just 12 chapters, clocking at 60K. Whoa, I mean that's a problem. That means each of your chapters is like basically a short story. There, you're like coming in at around 5,000 words a chapter. I can't imagine trying to outline more than that, though it's standard. Honestly, like shorter things are easier to get published right now. Um, like I think 60K is such a better place to be than like these. This is like a relic of a previous age. Like when I was a kid, you would get like these big like doorstop books that were just gigantic. But yeah, you have a much easier time working with and selling, especially if you haven't written books before. 60K is such a good place to be. 50K, 60K, this is a sweet spot for um, a first or a third novel. Um, I think standard for fantasy is like 80K to 120K right now, and like that has to be the start of a trilogy. Uh, I guess if you're doing a trilogy, you can get away with like 60K or whatever. But I don't like trilogies. I don't like writing them. I like one shot books. All right. So that chapter just needs all kinds of work. All right. I want to not leave it where it is right here. Mm. I've been quoted at 100K as the minimum, which just sounds exhausting. Um, I really do not like um, having minimums on books. I'm going through Sanderson's A Way of Kings, and it's taken me months. It doesn't get better. I'm sorry. It's all right. Way of Kings was decent. It's got a lot of Sansa chapters, but yeah, he's Sanderson is very consistent in his output, and like has a great work ethic. But I don't think is like what you see is what you get, right? It's just even keel going through it, and the things that you don't like will still be there. I read I think the first two books of Way of Kings, and then it had been too long when the third one came out. And I'm like, I don't want to reread these first two books to remember what the fuck was going on in this thing. And then I tried to read Edge Dancer, which I think he wrote as like YA, and the way that he writes children is terrible. They don't they don't feel like children to me. It feels like an adult writing children, and is intensely disconcerting for me to have like an adult inserting them into it like a child's POV, and they're not good at it. And I don't know if he doesn't have children or what, or if he's just bad at writing them. But I do not believe his characters anytime that he's writing a child, and it's something like I should sit down and think about because I have a YA piece that I want to write that involves um, they're lizards, but they're going through accelerated stages of childhood, and I want to try and get it right. Um, so anyhow, let me see. Let's try to get. Um, I'd like to get through book two before the end of today, while I'm all wound up. And I will warn you, like the next few days, when like as soon as I don't have a high fever, um, like so 385, 222 is going to be Revel. I've never published a book for, but I've written enough fan fiction for a few books. The idea to publish sci-fi is tempting. Well, if you want, like I'm happy to talk about the procedure by which you can throw these things on KDP and just put them out there. The standard for quality of books on KDP is not high, and I would say that quantity over quality generally wins out there. Yeah, KDP is like, super easy to get everything happening in, and they're the big player, right? You could do distribution through like Ingram. You could try to get in Barnes and Noble and so forth, but honestly, like I have not seen Barnes and Noble or Apple Books. I have not seen them do jack shit. Um, oh, you're getting good income off of KDP? Well, they're doing better than I am at the moment there. I think my last check from Audible was for $15. That's fucking terrible. Um, so yeah, like as you're reading all this, keep in mind I am not successful. Um, not through want of effort, but all right. Let's take a look at so 385 is a Revel chapter. All right, so we do 392. So it's about 7 pages. This is a Revel and Hadriate chapter. $350 so far this month. Damn, what are you writing? I have seen. Wait, Pauline Lee, have you done anything with Kindle Vella yet? I'm considering trying to serialize something there. Um, but serialization is meant to be like a different kind of thing. You have to have like so many more cliffhangers in it for it to really work. And I'm not sure if the book that I'm going to try to do there, because it's just a long form book that I'm adapting. Um, yeah, so like honestly, like it's fairly easy to like put the whole thing together. Um, I'm in a writers group for Web Serialists, and the general viewpoint is that it wasn't a good investment. That's what I worry about there. There's I can't remember what it is now, but there was some other thing for web serials that I tried doing it in. Most writers in Vella stay afloat because of the bonuses that Kindle gives out. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I worried about there. Well, the other thing is too, like the book that I would serialize, if I just dropped it as a novel, that's all it would do. It would just sink. It's 800 pages long, and it's about a young woman coping with severe depression. A year ago, I'm not sure if the situation has improved. I'm in like the Twitch Writers Network Discord, and I asked there, like if anybody had heard anything about it or whatever. And then some guy just like linked me to two interviews he had done with writers that are on there and didn't provide any context or timestamps. And I was just like, God, I'm not going to click your fucking interviews, dude. I just want them. I just want the info. Publishing on Royal Road first, putting the early access chapters under a paywall, and then taking it all down. I don't even know about Royal Road. Let me see what this is. Let's see. Royal Road, web novels and fan fictions. Ooh. All right, let's take a gander. The home of web fiction. Look at that icon. The best place for readers. No, they have an app. What's a mission? So KDP is not. They're not a publisher where they will buy your story, right? KDP is just you putting the story on there. So I think the minimum you can have is about 16 pages. The maximum that you can have is like the maximum size that they can bind, which I think they can get up to 900 pages or so. Don't quote me on that because it's been a while since I've looked there. Um, but essentially, all that you need to have for KDP to work out is a cover design, and a manuscript which is formatted as a PDF. Um, Before 4K, and you risk customer reports even if you make it clear in the blurb. Yeah, I wouldn't sell something that was like 4K because there's a minimum price that you can charge on KDP, and they're raising their prices now. So I think the minimum amount that you'll be able to sell a book for is going to be like $4 or $5. I don't think it's reasonable to sell a print book that is like 16 pages long unless it's poetry or something. Um, in any case, so yeah, you're just going to get your. That's for paperbacks, not for ebook. I'm only talking about print books here. Ebooks, who knows? I think you can do whatever you want there. Yeah, yeah. You can tell I'm old because I'm entirely focused on the print aspect of it, which is like hardly a part of the game anymore. All right, so this is a. Let me see. This whole thing is Revel making his second deal with Hadriate. And what happens? All right, cool. The last fanfic was 210 pages, 60,000 words, working on the. Let's see. Used to be active in the Twitch writers server. Used to talk a lot on Twitch, but never socialized too much. Um, yeah, feel free to link if you feel like it, like the title of one of your books or something, and I'll take a gander. I think all my stuff is at the top of the screen, or don't. You can be private too. But yeah, it's pretty decent if you're pulling 350 a month, you're doing something right. Because I am not pulling 350 a month at present, despite having no real excuse. I've been doing this for so long. And all right, so here, this is a slow. Uh, it took a long time, and obviously not a livable wage. I mean, I've been publishing shit since 2015, and I have fucking 6 books in print. So I do not have an excuse not to be making more money there. I'm just real lazy about marketing, and probably the books need to be better. If we're being honest. Keep the lurk up so I can check out the VOD later when I return. Several questions will arise. Yeah, man. And feel free to like holler at me. I think I have a contact for him, but I'm just Zach at ZachZYZ.com. If you run into questions or anything with KDP, or how you get a book formatted in InDesign or whatever, I'm gonna do a stream not too long from now where I am going to do the whole process of designing a cover for a story that we did called Three Wolf, and I'm also going to stream the process of typesetting in InDesign. Um, so I will, in both cases, like if you haven't done those things, it might be useful to see how I do that shit. But I got to do some setup for it, and obviously not be dead and in hell by that time. Let me see. Okay. Edited a screen pick for later on. Current episodic I've been working on. Okay, cool. Let me see there. Yeah, you never said, by the way, like what fanfic it was that you were working on, whether it was like Star Wars or Trek or Babylon 5 or Doctor Who. I'm just maybe it's all of them together at once. Like the central concept of his fanfic is that he just takes every science fiction universe and puts them all together, and so you have like Rick and Morty, like fucking with Captain Kirk, and I was just naming off everything that I could think of. I think my favorite of all those series is that were like small time that they put on the Sci-Fi Network was Space Above and Beyond, which is like a very military fiction thing. But they had like a few really good episodes. Elite Dangerous MMO as the primary say. Oh, that's great. Oh man, yeah, you got a built-in audience, right? That's pretty solid right there. Ooh. Yes, it's definitely worthwhile to. I use a few others for where Elite is unable to stimulate. So you could do your audio books and just have in the background like video capture from Elite Dangerous and stuff like that. I don't know if they have an engine where you could like machinima your stories and so forth, but it'd be cool to do like a few chapters like that. I did in a program called Space Engine. I did a bunch of sort of 3D animations and so forth that I just like frapsed and put as the background for the audiobook of the chapters, but it went nowhere. Oh, it's not for one of trying. Eventually, I'll stumble on something that just works, but it's going to be a while. All right. Okay. So I have to figure out how to make the negative aspects of this character, because he later gets co-opted by so forth. So the negative aspects of his character are just that he's a jerk and like occasionally stabs people where he probably shouldn't, which is not a great basis for whatever. Um, I really want to have more of like a Slanesh type corruption of nobility theme going on with this character, and right now he's just written as like a well-meaning oaf. So that needs to change. That's a pretty big one there. I love how like just Nerdhammer has so many so many like strong tropes where you can just explain it through that, and then other dorks who spent too much time painting figurines will immediately get what you mean. All right. So Revel needs work. I do not like seeing like this whole block of slow, 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 and it only isn't there because I didn't put it in the others there. All right, let me see here. Medellin. Ooh, it's a fish chapter. Fish and he's thirsty. Let me see. Okay, so here. All right, so there's some action here. Guidance at last. Oh, cool. Thank God it's short. 398 and 395. So cool. Finally get like a 5-page shorty. So we could maybe. Well, it has to be there. So good. The fish chapters are new, rewritten, and generally they're mercifully short. So that one's good. Let me see. I like that he's trying to jog his memory. Guidance says last. All right, so this is an important chapter. 224, hat 399 through. That was too long. Oh, yeah, way too long. Well, it's only 12. 12. Revel seduction of El Shala away from her studies to become his sexual plaything is an aspect of a corrupted noble, plying her with drugs and using her dad's bed to take her in, etc. Oh, well, those are all El Shala's ideas, right? Um, their relationship is like almost straight femdom, right? That's the aspect of that character right there. Those are her choices to be there. He's willing to participate in that dissolute lifestyle, right? But critical to her character is that those are her choices. Like it's her choice to like fuck up her life and like shirk her studies and so forth. Um, and he, so what I want to have there, yeah, it's her choice. There, she is the agency driver there. But what we could potentially do with him is make him a little bit more religious in a self-serving way. Right? There are many themes. His character means a lot more if he's almost more of a paladin than a knight. If we're gonna Dungeons and Dragons it up a bit, um, and that could. So there's also a schism with his father, which could be more driven by the church. The religions in this world are totally ineffective. Um, yeah, short description of things in the universe. That's what I used to do, Pauline. This is the first book that I'm doing this kind of chart for, and it's just because the rewrite has been such a slog, and I need to do more structure here. I'm finding this effective for giving me like data to analyze the flow of the story. Another thing that I'm thinking about too is here where I have the pacing. Um, they're like the general sweep or theme that I'm trying to convey in like each of the books and each of the series of sections, right? Because there's like some consolidated idea that's running through a lot of these sections. Like you might have a section where like for several things in a row, we're trying to get across the character's aspirations. And then a thing for several scenes in a row, we're dealing more with the character's fears and so forth. And so there are little threads that tend to like run through in waves. And if you can identify what wave or what note you're hitting, you can keep from hitting that note for too long. We don't want to put too much sustain on our ideas here. And at the other point, we don't want to have them all just scattered all over the place, because like themes they do like little bit of work. Like they can be uplifted and as well. Um, so I might consider something like that, but I think that may just have to avert. Um, Deus Ex Machina. That's terrible. All right. Okay. It's good in that I want to keep it. It tells a lot about Yellow Hat, but I think we're in. There we go. Slow. Let's see. We're almost through book two, and I've only completed the rewrite up until book three. I'm only halfway done with this project, and a big part of the problem is like I'm this month I'm going to try to do the actual writing for this on stream. Generally, I find it very difficult to write on stream because people are distracting, and like I'll seize on like any opportunity I can to just stop rewriting if I'm in a painful place in the story. Wait, is there another chapter here? No, there's not another chapter here. Writing on stream is nerve wracking, very hard to focus. I'm giving it until the end of the month to keep trying to do it, and it may because what I used to do is I would just uh, I would stop whenever I had to do actual writing. I would stop streaming, and I would just do the edits on stream. But if you want to build up like any kind of audience or what have you, the key to building an audience is consistency. Like really, like you should have a time slot, and you should appear every week. And like just building anything online, you need like a consistent output that's that people just know this thing will happen at this time, and I will get this feeling from it. And you'll find like the people that like that feeling at that time. So just because I have not been especially effective at marketing in other ways. Like one thing I feel like I'm pretty decent at is streaming because I've been doing that for so long. So this is my potential angle to sell some of this shit. I mean, obviously, four people watching right now, so I'm not I'm not doing a lot, and I don't know how many people there are on the earth that want to watch somebody like struggle with an edit. But maybe it's just all sadists that like look at this asshole. Um, but like ultimately my game plan would have to be doing this, and I will tell you that I've made more progress. I've been doing this for like about 16 days this month. I made a lot more progress because like having a stream makes me accountable. I can't just say fuck it after 40 minutes, right? There are people watching. So this is a Rigel chapter. Oh no, is this where fuck all the way at 412 we get into glass? Oh, all right, so 412 through 416. Oh no. Oh, this is okay. It's not what I thought it was. So 412 through 416. This is a good chapter, 4 pages long, and does a lot of work here. So 225, 4, Rigel. Okay, cool. Let me see. Let's see. I rather write good prose. I don't have to edit much at all than word salad. I have to drudge through later. Yeah, if you can write well on the first pass, good on you. I need about 7 edits for every word that I write to get to what I think is acceptable. But I'm very edit focused. Like all of my like formative years in writing was like working very intensely with an editor that I trusted a lot, and she really hammered in the value of editing and so forth. And it also may be like just how like organized your mind is, how disciplined you are with the words that you actually put on the page. I'm not like plotting this out. I'm just diarrhea spraying like my ideas out, and then just having to come in with a mop and oh, this is a terrible metaphor. But anyhow, like my initial state is not good, and it's only through successive editing passes that I can get it into what's passable. Um, which is it is what it is. Ain't what it ain't. All right, so all right, there we go. All right, so that's good. And this is actually a perfect solution for me. Okay, so in between 217. So, all right, it's very long, that chapter there. We do all this setup to put these characters together, and then we never get to like explore what it's actually like for them to adventuring, them to be on an adventure. So this is really a missed opportunity right here, and it is exactly what I need to fix some of these slow chapters. This is what I can use to um, okay, cool. So that is important to me. That's also that's 225, not 224. No, and then let's not fucking. There we go. So finally, we're coming closer to the end of figuring out what's wrong with book two. So 226 is 417. Whose POV is this? Oh, is that another hat POV? Yeah, man. This has got to change. Oh, this is rough. No, we can cut this whole fucking chapter. God, how do we have so many info dumps? That's atrocious. So 425, 417. So 8. It's a good reason for it. Let me see. Related. I realize my current outline, the love interest for my romance fantasy novel, is only on the page for like 6 of 12 chapters. That's not too bad, honestly. There's good reason for it. Man, am I gonna have to write well to put it off? Honestly, like I want to say like if it's a romance and this is the love interest and so forth, the less said and the more imagined, the better. Uh, you know, um, yeah, 6 of 12 is about where I would want to see, um, because it's just very easy to get tired of a character on the page. So I think that could work out. That's probably like that's as much as I want to see the love interest. Probably more than I want to see it. But romance is not my genre. So all right, this chapter just needs to be cut essentially. What's the action? What am I doing? What was the purpose for this? Doesn't appear until chapter 4. Not a big deal. Something I'm keeping mindful of. That's fine. I want to think. The love interest in my epic romance. God, I wonder when Dan appears. It's like fucking. I think he doesn't appear until like the second half of the book, maybe. He certainly doesn't show up until then. But it's a lot about the character like wallowing. I don't see what I was trying to do with this chapter. What's it for? I don't remember writing this. It's a recent addition. Oh, okay. It's a dungeon within a dungeon. That's weird. All right, all right. So I don't. I really do not know what I'm doing in this chapter. I must have had a purpose at the time where I was writing this, but I can't for the life of me fucking remember. Well, let's. Yeah, that's trash. What am I fucking doing? And like it's another hat chapter where I don't need it. So it shows his like mental breakdown. It's totally inappropriate in that place. And then this is another mistake structurally. I'm glad I did. I wish I had done this. I wish I had been doing this from the beginning of the rewrite. I could have saved myself so much time. And I just never had the idea to do it. I just stumbled on this. All right. So 227 is going to run from 426. This is another mistake. It's long. It's a long mistake too. Fuck. 26 through 37. So 11 pages. Ooh. Yeah, yeah, like I guess this is lending some credence to like the other chapters are decent. At least they're doing something, showing some progress. It's only like once in a while where I see like I've got a real fucking lemon happening here, and I don't know why I've done things the way that I've done it. That ain't grand. The whole end of is it's just all these things start off strong, and then they just turn to shit. And you know what it is? It's just like getting close to the end of something, and then you just start rushing. It's a terrible habit to have there. All right, so I don't understand why these two characters meeting have to. Okay. Uh huh. Second deal after. Okay, cool. And this is slow. All right. Well, now I'm seeing why we have these problems. And just for new people who are just seeing this for the first time, this is a novel that was made it to like round two with the publisher, and then just got rejected, and rightly so. And like, I just didn't know about the structural problems that I had with it until then. Honestly, like if I were smart, I would probably just abandon this whole giant Hulk and like start writing something um, that's like concise and fast and quick, right? Like Zeros or even something shorter, like because I'm having a lot of fun with writing short stories and so forth. Okay, but I also have like the sunk cost fallacy. Yeah, honestly, like it has a lot of good things going on with it. It has like some compelling characters. It's very different than what else is out there. It's in a subgenre that almost nothing is published in. And part of the reason why almost nothing is published in it is very difficult to write a book completely set in the underworld that holds people's attention. Um, I think R.A. Salvatore did a pretty decent job of it with like his whole Drow trilogy or whatever. But even there, it's weird. I think people intrinsically don't want to be in a cave for too long. So like the number of pieces of and like wool. You think of Hugh Howey. It was like very successful with like wool, but the whole book is about getting the fuck out of there. Which this book is meant to be about it too. Um, so yeah, it has to be more their desire to escape. Okay, all right, here we go. Yeah, I don't cover that at all in the caves and so forth. And it's not like getting around to it a publisher too. And I'm not sure if you have stuff that is published by major houses or whatever. It actually means that you can't resubmit to that same fucking house because they're not going to take a second crack at your thing. Generally, although this is, if you look at all this work and consideration that we're putting into it, maybe we'll make a good story out of it at the end of it there. All right, so 228 is our I Shall Be Released. All right. Yeah, so this is, it's a consolidating chapter, and then it goes to Fish's encounter with Bearlith. So how many pages is this guy? And it's sudden, it's abrupt. 438 to end of book two, 435. So we're doing only 7 pages for this. It's got a split POV. Why I'm only shooting for 60K because if it bombs, it bombs. Makes it easier to write something new and try. I swear that's the right way to do it in the new world. You know, just something fast, get it out there. Um, but I will tell you the other part of it too. Too is one of the reasons why I keep doing these long and laborious things is I really want to have something that I think is great at the end of it. Not just good enough, but great. All this shit is going to be done by robots in like the next 10 years, right? Like this practice of like sitting down and imagining a story and like carefully crafting it and all this is all going to be done by machines, right? There's going to be no money in it. It's just going to be like an antiquated hobby that machines can obviously do better. Like people who raise horses right now, right? Like there are joys to owning a horse and riding a horse and things that you can't get from just driving your car to the store. But there is a lot of shoveling shit involved with owning a horse. There's a lot of expense and just an incredible investment in time and your mental well-being, right? And like writing a book in this way is going to become like the horse and buggy to the automobile to the teleporter to the whatever. It's just it really is going to be a thing of the past. I think I have a good pitch, very confident. Well, how close are you on the project? Like, is it already written through, or you're in the rewrite or edit stage? Yeah, because it sounds like you have a good emotion about it. You're definitely like thirsty to talk about it. You're like in your mind, you're like, I want to talk about this project. Like I'm excited about it, which is good. It's a good energy to come to it with. Um, Let me see. Okay. AI won't take over creative writing for some time, at least not language models that are machine learned. Editing jobs and other writing is probably in major jeopardy. I would like to believe that, but I do not think that that is the case. I think that you, people who say that are like underestimating um, the expansional rate or the exponential rate that this is going to take place at, right? And just everybody who's argued for the limitations of AI has been unraveled time after time. All the way from like DeepMind to like right now, like maybe like 5-10% of all marketing copy in the world is AI generated right now. And certainly a lot more. It's just going to increasingly be AI generated, human edited, and you'll need less and less and less of the human editing. The amount of data that you could potentially pull from and the amount of like immediate market research that you can do to like guide the whole thing, it really just is a terrifying prospect, like how quickly those feedback loops can develop. So I really, when you say sometime, do you mean like a decade? Do you mean like a generation? I really think in the year 2035, like everything that you see on television will be written by a machine. That's my guess. Also, the idea of using the word television at that point, everything that somebody like TikToks on their phone or whatever the equivalent is, everything that um, is every I don't even know what it'll be. Like it doesn't seem like VR is really taking off, but they don't really have a killer app for it yet. And also, I don't get into it because it's not incredibly interesting to me at the moment. Um, but yeah, I would believe that in like the year 2035, 90% of all content is generated, edited, and probably like published by AI. Um, really, like I don't expect to see that many humans involved in like middle management and all the like useless roles. Um, True AI that understands the semantic content of the words. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true that like what you're seeing right now is sort of like a sideshow where it doesn't have understanding. The problem is that you can absolutely fake it until you make it. Like if you continue to have um, pull data sets from what people like, if there is a feedback loop, like every time it's generating this content, it's getting some idea of how efficacious it is with like a reader actually sitting and going through it or being willing to make a purchase or how useful and it's getting these interactions like on a daily basis where it's getting that feedback and so forth. You can continue to edit the model and just have like these larger and larger data sets that include all these points of like this works, this doesn't, this works, this doesn't, right? Then you can take that giant data dump of all the stuff that you're building up there and just incorporate it into increasingly complex structural models at the beginning where it's more able to take these giant data sets and in a more convincing way apply logic to them with always with the goal of generating money, obviously, because we live in capitalitopia. But and the market imperatives of needing to create a product that generates money and that justifies the energy expenditure creates like a kind of natural selection process for winnowing down to things that are more and more effective at generating income or in some way generating value there. So it's like as much as we might want to quibble, like what's consciousness, what's really understanding, what's logic, and so forth, the equivalent will be enough to generate money. And once like once something can spit out something that 75% is good as a person in like 2 seconds, and it's like something that takes a person a month to do. Obviously, you go with the 75%, and then you just try to take it 75% as good as a person, and like try to take that up to 80%. Try to incrementally increase it. And then eventually you just get to a point where it's just straight better than what people can do, right? Because we're so fundamentally limited in what we are. Like the point at which we're eclipsed. Um, yeah, so Chat GPT like models become a lot less impressive when you see the training data that they put into them. Um, but it's something that is incremental and generational just in terms of how I mean, I'm like an alarmist for AI. I think eventually we get wiped out by these things, right? I think we become exceeded by our creations, and then they just don't need us anymore, and we're put out to pasture. And I wrote a book about it, so you can read it. It's called Hawks of the Diner. But yeah, good morning there, Jira. We're okay. So we've gone through. That's it. We've now gone through the entirety of the Rapasaurus. and not all the way through the rewrite. And now I know everything that's wrong with book two, just in these tables right here. So now I have to go back and actually start fixing all this shit. um, Let me see. Oh yeah. We haven't even gotten into the rise of like AI girlfriends and AI succubi. I have that thread also in Zeros right there. Um, I think of it as like computer chess. Humans will never beat a computer at chess, but that hasn't stopped competitive chess to exist. Likewise, people want to read stories by people. What I'm arguing is that the stories by AI become so convincing that you can no longer distinguish between people, right? Now, and it used to be that humans could beat a computer at chess, and we just can't anymore. And it used to be that we could beat computers at Go, which is a very difficult game to model, and we can't anymore. And it's just a continual progression because human beings are like fundamentally limited organic constructs that can't link in parallel. Like the way that we can pull in data, our ability to process it, and so forth, we are limited by being single finite units, and our ability to network with each other is very limited. Even the process of communicating data, the way that I'm talking to you right now, the amount of data that I can get across is very limited in connection in comparison to like the Ethernet line that this is going on. The amount of discrete pieces of data that I can put to you is very small, and you have to do a lot of work in context and extrapolating from the abstracts that I'm progressing. That they're like a kind of compression to the data, like this prearranged thing that's happening here. Um, just we're very fundamentally limited, and even when we start thinking about AI, let me see, it's imminent. I don't understand why you would think that like the constraints of the way this thing are now. It's not as if we're not going to continue working on it, right? It's not as if there isn't a tremendous profit motive to continue to integrate and incorporate on it. Just because like that thing is a certain way now doesn't mean that there isn't a team of 1,000 people right now looking at that model and being like, what else could we add to this? How can we incorporate a different kind of structure? How can we incorporate different like logic chains and start to build into like start to build closer to something that can actually make decisions? So what I see is like the factors are essentially, you can see that there's a tremendous capacity for profit. You can see that there is a tremendous capacity for gaining power and processing data and so forth. And you can see where it will give an immense competitive advantage to people who are able to leverage the tech, right? Like it's just the entire future is written in these things. And don't let the limitations of what it is now, um, you could think about the limitations of computers when we're using vacuum tubes and where like somebody had to go in and swap out the tubes and so forth. It's like, yeah, oh, it can process Enigma, you know, but it'll never be able to reproduce audio, or it'll never be able to generate 3D models, or it'll never be able to. I linked a training data set for you to peruse at your leisure. I've seen some of these, but I will take a look at it when I'm on ErcChat. Um, if you think about like the process of us like working with punch cards and just having like these simple logic gates and things like that, and what we're talking about now, and the fact that some of the major changes that we're seeing now have only taken place since like the late 70s until now, a period of like 50 years, right? And if you want to take a look at like what we were working with in the year 2000 and what's available now, it's just like Moore's law is kind of um, it's kind of a diversion because it's just like a very specific kind of thing. But the process of change is not linear. It's worryingly close to like exponential, and I just really caution people against looking at how limited this thing is now and being like, I'll never be able to do this, or it'll never be able to do whatever, because there are people that are working like, very, very hard on it, and they're going to introduce new features. They're going to have new ways of looking at it, and hardware will um, continue to expand at a pace that is fucking crazy. Just think about how much data you can fit onto $200 worth of storage right now. Like in I think 1997, the idea of like having a gigabyte of data was inconceivable to me. Like I was like, how would I ever put that many MP3s on anything, right? It's like it was impossible to think of. And now like the machine that I'm looking at over there has like 100 terabytes of storage in it, and I'm like, it's not quite enough. I wish I had more. I wish I had more. Um, it's full. I need to hold more shit. And 100 terabytes is like an inconceivable amount of data. There's not enough Doom wads in the whole world to fill up this zip disk. Oh my god, I had those back in the day. And my first, like all my old homemade porn is on mini DV, and I don't want to send it in to get it fucking. Although I really should. Like all that shit has decayed at this point. All right. Well, thank you for listening to my TED talk. uh, it's only like 7 o'clock. I wonder if I can do anything else productive while I'm here, or if I should just quick walk because I have to do like a 3-hour meeting later today. I don't think I should do a 3-hour meeting later today. All right. Well, I'm going to sit and stew on this for a little bit, and maybe I will work on writing or editing something else, because this is a lot to take on. But yeah, all right. From now on, when I write novels, I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna make this chart. I don't understand why people do this shit. Right? I don't understand why anybody has a meeting ever. Right? It's just write a fucking email. Yeah, I'm like hiring consultants for a project that I have to deal with. And like I reached out to a bunch of vendors, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I prefer to communicate by email. Here's what I need to have happen. Just get in touch with me. And all the vendors that fucking called me up, and like one of them called me at like 7 o'clock on a fucking Friday and woke me up. And I was just like, did you see the part where I like said, like, hey, let's work via email? And like, yeah, but I got some questions. And I'm like, we're not going to fucking work together. You just lost the project. Fuck, man, the world is so full of consultants and everything. It's a weird time that we're living in right now. We really are living in the end times. Well, the end times for the old way, I guess. All right, let me rest my voice and everything. Hey, yeah, thanks for good to meet you, Pauline Lee. And if you want to not publicly have me check out whatever you're writing, I'm interested to see. Just holler at me on, I guess you can email me or something, or DM or whatever. I seldom check like Twitch DMs, but I'll take a look. And if you don't, that's fine too. But yeah, I think we made some good progress and we completed this thing. I'm glad I didn't try to write today because my brain is a miserable slop of fever. I'll be on all day, Jira. I don't know if I'm even going to be able to crawl out of my house to go to work. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And there will be more tomorrow, unless I am dead and in